One Step Ahead by Lundquist and Beslick.
Welcome to One Step Ahead Radio. This is another session, and this week we have a very interesting guest and a topic that has been on the mind of many people around the world for the last, I would say, 5-6 years. The topic of how the world will reach its targets to decrease carbon emissions. And as it looks today, both in on a global level, but also in many regional contexts, the CO2 emissions are increasing, and the companies, and many of them, and also governments around the world, will be forced to find other ways to compensate or decrease their CO2 emissions going forward. And for that very reason, there is an interesting discussion today. I have invited, and James have invited, Gerhard Huber, who is one of the people in the world on a global level working with very interesting solutions that we believe could be interesting for the audience, but also for us to learn about how this is done and how it works. Gerhard, much welcome to One Step Ahead Radio, and James, also welcome again.
Thank you so much
to this
for having
session.
Hi, welcome as also from my side. Good to have this conversation.
Good to have you both at One Step Ahead Radio. Gerhard, I mean, would you be able to tell us a bit about your background and what you're doing? And also, I mean, we have, of course, a number of questions that are related to CO2 carbon credits and how does that market work? There has been a lot of things written about this, but obviously companies around the world will need to use this going forward. Gerhard, please, a bit about background and
Yeah,
what you're doing.
myself, I'm Austrian, living in Japan, Tokyo, but I'm investing globally, and one of these investment is in this company, which actually is registered in the United Kingdom, but is mainly active in Latin America, in Chile, Argentina, Peru, and Mexico. And what eGreen, that's the name of the company I'm the executive chairman of, is involved in solving problems with carbon credits, which we believe these markets and these certificates, it is intransparent and inefficient. And we are bringing cutting edge technology to these markets and to these certificates in order to solve these two problems, transparency and efficiency. So what we do is we do not use any predictive models where we predict the carbon capture of any given project. We just measure it. And what the result of these measurements results is what it takes. We use that and we bring it onto a blockchain where it's transparent, globally accessible, and then efficiently can be delivered via a token through the Stellar blockchain to the buyer. The buyer can buy this token for investment purposes, but also for offsetting purposes. So it's completely flexible.
If I'm a company, Gerhard, if I'm a company, let's say I operate whatever. I mean, I could operate in Japan or I could operate in Austria. How can I get access to what
you would get in touch with us, and then we can present to us a variety of projects. We have 70 projects in the pipeline, which we are in the process of onboarding. Some of them are onboarded already. They are on our website and can be seen, and you can download all the relevant data which are interesting for you. Once you have selected the project, we basically can deliver to you the certificate in form of a token, which you then can keep in any wallet where you can keep digital assets.
I mean, James, thanks, Gerhard. There has been a lot of discussion about these carbon credits around the world. Do they work, not transparency? I mean, Gerhard touched upon some of these things that are challenging. I mean, the question is, what are the things that people need to think about when it comes to the carbon offsetting? Especially in this context. James, any views on that?
Yeah, well, it's really, but the question that I had for you, Gerhard, is kind of the sense of where the market is, because we've seen, a lot of excitement a few years ago, 2020, 2021, then this sort of big decline
around the integrity of a lot of carbon projects. I mean, several high visibility scandals where claimed savings and reductions haven't materialized, or various projects haven't been robust in the actual emissions that they deliver, and a lot of people have been scared off. But still, the big investment banks are predicting 2030 stellar pickup in this market. And what's been missing to a certain extent has been that question of integrity, and also a global system through the COP, through the United Nations framework on climate change, to have those sort of global rules in place, which to a certain extent they made big steps ahead of the last COP. So how are you seeing the market at the moment? That optimism, are things looking up? How do you see things going forward from your?
I think
from your
2024 was a very difficult market for exactly the reasons you mentioned. There is mistrust. There was a lot of big certificates in the market, something which where somebody was claiming some carbon credits, even though that the forest which was presumably producing these carbon credits burned down 2 years ago, and something like this. This is exactly what we are trying to tackle in bringing our technology to these projects, because we measure it. For example, we have a project in the southern part of Patagonia in Chile where we measure a piece of forestry there, and we measure it. We have sensors on towers, and they measure every 30 minutes. We take 40,000 data points every 30 minutes, and they get then uploaded. And without any human intervention, the algorithm converts it into carbon credits, which can be seen by anybody who wants to do an audit or a verification of that. And for example, in July, that's the winter time in the southern part of Patagonia, this forest produces a negative carbon credit. Basically, it breathes out more CO2 than it breathes in. If you have a predictive model, none of this would be predicted. And we just measure it because we have 40,000 data points every 30 minutes.
So Gerhard, just for a second, I mean, what you're basically saying is that these predictive sort of schematic models that are used in many cases, forward-looking models, where they just assume a type of CO2 absorption by different types of forest, are really not doing their job, if I understand you correctly, because you need to measure this and you need to understand the full picture.
I believe that a model is a model, right? And a predictive model is exactly what it says it is. It predicts something which may not be not there in 2 years' time, because the forest gets sick and maybe it doesn't produce anymore the carbon absorption it produced 5 years ago, 2 years ago. We just measure it. We measure it every 30 minutes, and it is what it is. And it is absolutely unassailable, because we make it completely transparent. Anybody who wants to can look at these 40,000 data points, and it can be verified by independent auditors or verification agencies for this.
Yeah, because there's a big problem around that verification process as well, which is blocking, because a lot of these projects are done in developing countries or in Africa, Southeast Asia, where there isn't also resources and people and agencies who do that verification. So you get somebody flying from the other side of the world, and because you've got your investor says, "Oh, I want to have this person verify," and they have to go, in your case, to Patagonia. You got to get someone fly from like London or Germany or wherever, all the way over to verify the state, and they do it once a year, and they go down to Patagonia, whereas you've got real time, on the ground, verifiable in data in on the instant. Do you think that's going to be a key trigger in kind of helping boost confidence in the market and in projects, and overcoming what you said, that skepticism, that reluctance on a lot of investors? For that,
we hope so that this is a turning point in in the very, very bad reputation we currently have in these markets. That it's totally transparent. It doesn't get more transparent, and we are open to anybody who is, whether that's an investigative journalist from the Guardian or an auditor or somebody else. We are totally transparent. We can be, and then I think it will build confidence. All those predictive models, they are just models, and as you said, they get verified once a year. And then all of these verification processes from Stellar and from gold standards, it takes long time, very long time, and it takes a lot of money to do that. These agencies cost a lot. We do it differently. If we usually what we do is we do a pilot, which lasts maybe 6 months, and at the 6 months we analyze what the potential is of the project, whether it's a biochar project, a methane project, blue carbon project, or whatever it is. Because we are a technology company, we are independent from the project. We don't own the projects. So we bring our technology to that. It's like Excel spreadsheet. You can do anything with an Excel spreadsheet. Excel is just a tool, and we are like the tool of Excel. So these we are faster, we are cheaper, and we are more transparent than anything that is out there. But we follow the same rules. Vera, and Gold Standard, they all follow the IGROA principles, and we do the same. Our documentation is exactly the same. It is just what we do is faster, cheaper, more transparent, and what we believe, of course, I would say that better.
But go ahead. Go ahead, James.
No, I was going to just ask you a little bit about how you see, because I mean, that's certainly resolving one of the big roadblocks in the overall voluntary market. Are you confident about how do you see things developing, this connection between the voluntary market and the compliance market? So there's the whole Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which finally we're getting clarity about how these voluntary projects can actually connect to the climate commitments that countries are taking and need to take within that framework. Are you positive about that helping the market grow and boosting the market? Are you seeing countries actually, signals after COP 29?
Yes,
That's actually sort of starting to kick in.
and it is good. At this point, we are only in the voluntary market, but I can see, or we can see, that there is a little bit of interaction going on more and more between the compliance market, compliance market and the voluntary market. For example, Japan. Japan is struggling to catch up. Their reputation is bad, and so on. And so far, it was very rigid. These companies could only buy from some designated agencies in Japan, who then in return only could buy carbon credits in 5 different countries, because it needed a bilateral agreement between two governments. And just think how long it takes to come to this agreement. And then it's narrow, it's only renewable energy. So any other carbon credit producing project would be not part of this bilateral agreement. And now suddenly the government sees that it's falling behind. It needs to catch up. It needs to make it easier for these companies in Japan to buy this. And starting in 2026, it will open up. So the people who are in the voluntary market like us and producing carbon credits there will be allowed to sell to companies in Japan, and they can then use it to offset it. So there is some movement in there.
Yeah.
It's slow, but what do you expect? It's 2 governments or a government involved. It cannot be fast.
I mean, Japan is one of the countries that just released today. I mean, Bloomberg was covering that they will not be able to reach the target they have set to take down emissions. I mean, if they want to come to the targets they have, they will need to take down about 73% of the emissions they have. And this sort of a voluntary market is becoming interesting part. But Gerhard, I mean, going into the challenges, I mean, what else? I mean, you mentioned some of these challenges in what you said to James, the trust and the credibility of the market and all of that. But do you think that, the scale of what will be needed is so huge? Will this market be able to feed the need that businesses will have?
I do believe it is possible to do that. Uh, I think we personally, we at eGreen believe that actually the demand will, for high quality carbon credits, will exceed the supply, because as we can see, we have 70 projects in the pipeline, but I don't think we want to do 1 billion tons of carbon credits by 2033. That's our projection based on our existing project pipeline. But it's not going to be enough. It's like 1% of what's needed. So they need not a lot more players coming in with high quality carbon credits. And you can see that more and more companies are moving into that. For example, I give you, Apple with the Apple Watch, the Apple Watch 9, where they declared not Apple the company and not their supply chain, but they said this product is our first carbon neutral product. And how do we do this? We have all these measurements, and we could reduce the carbon footprint of this watch, just the watch, by 78%, and 22% we offset by buying high quality carbon credits, right? For example, we are also involved with a very well-known reggae band from the United Kingdom, UB40, and they are going on tours, and they want to offset the tours. So we are now in engaged with them, where we determine the carbon footprint of the events, not only of the band and the equipment, but the people coming through the concert and going back home.
To the concert,
And then we try to democratize this offsetting in adding a little bit to the ticket price, and this additional amount will be used then to buy carbon credits to offset the tour, including the visitors, not only the band. So if you just think about it, if this catches on, these kind of product neutralization and event neutralization, just think of like Premier League in the United Kingdom every Saturday, Sunday, and any play day. You start to neutralize this, the demand will go through the roof. It will be impossible to satisfy, which is good for us, but it's not going to help overall the scheme. We need to reduce much more the carbon footprint, while at the same time come up with high quality carbon credits based on good projects, which are verifiable and transparent.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the carbon offsetting markets are the market solution for, taking down the CO2 emissions, which is one of the solutions that we have at hand. James, any comments from your side on what Gerhard was just saying?
Yeah, I was just no, I mean, it's certainly very interesting, because there is definitely this demand, and I think it's becoming much clearer for companies, that there's been a whole lot of scandals around greenwashing. So a lot of companies have been very reluctant to use offsetting. I think the rules are becoming clearer now, and as Gerhard was saying, with the watch example, was like the company has to make its commitment to do all it can to reduce its carbon footprint through direct actions. But then, the last mile, the final part, the hard to abate, those residual emissions can be offset. And obviously, that if you multiply by all the companies and products in the world, is still a vast amount. And there's also with some of the companies we're working with, really trying very hard to scrutinize the projects that they choose, where they are, to look at not just the carbon, the verifiable carbon improvement, but also the other co-benefits, the other benefits that go to the local communities, to look at the wider sustainability impact of what they're investing in, because they know that they're going to have their feet held to the fire over this. Every time they say, yeah, well, we've reduced, we've become carbon neutral because, we invested in. So all of that can be verified in technology is going to be really key to sort of helping these companies have confidence, because they're really coming forward. They're being pushed with the reporting, with their disclosures, to have those decarbonization horizons, and to have actual concrete plans of how they're going to get there. So they're going to need this very much, and that's going to be huge, as well as satisfying consumer demand for able to say that you offset and you've and that you're doing your part with a small payment. I was just curious to ask Gerhard, you said you're working a lot in South America, which is to some extent a bit of a more mature market in terms of background. I mean, they've been working on these projects for many years through Kyoto Protocol mechanisms. Do you think it's one of the leading regions in the world, or do you see other regions that are showing potential in terms of providing more? Because what we're saying here is we need more supply, we need more good projects, and there's a lot of countries out there that could provide that. Do you think there's who do you think's sort of
Yes,
up and coming?
you're right. I mean, this business is truly a global business, because the supply comes from the southern hemisphere. There's basically Indonesia, Africa,
Mm.
and South America, and the demand is in the developed world, which most of it is in the northern hemisphere, the United States, Europe, and to a certain extent in Asia. Right, Japan. We talked about it. So
Mhm.
we are almost exclusively working in South America, maybe because we are based there. We are an English company, I mentioned that, but we have, out of the 70 projects, we have like 65 of them are in South America. The reason is why we have gained a certain reputation for being better than what's existing. We are faster, we are cheaper, we are more transparent, and hopefully because of this we can achieve a higher price for our carbon credits than other people might do, especially if it's vintage carbon credit. They are penny a time. It's nothing. If you go to a brokerage company in London, if you have a vintage carbon credits from Red Plus Plus, it's like 25 cents. It's nothing for a ton. Your question was these. We are just starting to do our first project, which we are analyzing, is in Africa. And we hope it's also to gain access to these markets and to find these people who have projects, who are desperate to come online and are looking for the right partner to do that. So we have two projects in Africa. One is regenerative farming, and the other one is biochar project there. We have nothing in Asia, but we are also in Eastern Europe.
Thank you, Gerhard. This was very informative, very insightful. Great discussion, James. Thanks a lot for the comments and views. I hope that everybody listening to One Step Ahead Radio will find this interesting and share it. We will be back with new guests and much more interesting content going forward as well.
Thank
it's
you
been
for
a great
having me.
pleasure, Gerhard. Thank you very much for your time, James. Thanks a lot for joining.
Yes, thanks from my side as well. It was very illuminating. It was good. Going to be good to follow up and see how this develops, because it's a
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
good story.
Thank you. All the best. Bye bye.